I've been turning wrenches on pickups since 1981. In that time, I've seen engines come and go. I've seen trucks that died at 40,000 miles and trucks that just kept going past 500,000. But nothing prepared me for the 1997 F-250 with the 7.3 power stroke that came into my shop 6 years ago. I want to tell you about that truck because it changed the way I think about what a pickup is supposed to be. And I want to tell you why mechanics like me have a short list of trucks we will not sell, no matter what a customer offers us for them. This truck showed up on a flatbed from a farm outside Jackson, Tennessee, 847,000 miles on the odometer. The farmer who owned it, a man named Earl Hensley, was 74 years old, and he drove that truck every single day. He drove it to the feed store. He drove it through fields that turned to mud in the spring. He loaded it with hay bales that weighed more than some new trucks are rated to carry. And the truck just kept running. Earl brought it to me because he wanted a second opinion, not because anything was broken, because he'd been reading about these trucks online and he wanted someone who actually understood engines to tell him if he was crazy for hanging on to it. I put it on the lift and I looked at that engine from underneath. I expected to see trouble. What I saw instead was one of the cleanest 7.3 power stroke blocks I had looked at in 20 years. No oil leaks past the rear main seal, no water in the oil. The cylinder walls had crosshatch pattern you could still see with a flashlight and a mirror. Earl changed his own oil every 3,000 miles with conventional 15W40 diesel oil. He replaced the fuel filters himself. He had never taken it to a dealership for anything except the one time the emissions recall came out in 2004. And he went in for that and nothing else. That truck had been serviced on a simple schedule with basic parts, and it had outlasted everything I had ever seen. Earl asked me what I thought it was worth. I told him I'd give him $8,000 for it right now, cash, today, as it sits. He looked at me and he said, "Wade, I appreciate that, but I'm not selling it. I've had this truck since 1999. It has never once left me stranded." And I believe him because I've been fixing trucks long enough to know when a man is telling the truth about his machine. If you're new here and you want to know which trucks are worth buying, which ones are built to actually last, and what separates the trucks that die young from the trucks that just will not quit, then you need to stay with me for the next few minutes. I'm Wade Tucker, and I've been working on pickup trucks for over 40 years. This is the kind of information the dealerships do not want you to have. So if that sounds useful to you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below because I read every single one. Let me explain what makes a farm truck unkillable. And I'm not talking about luck. I'm talking about engineering and maintenance culture that modern trucks simply do not have, and modern owners almost never practice. The first thing you need to understand is that the trucks I'm talking about, the ones from the late 1980s through the early 2000s, were built with a fundamentally different philosophy. They were built to be repaired. Every bolt on those trucks was sized for a standard wrench. Every part was designed to be removed with hand tools. There were no proprietary sensors that required dealer software to recalibrate. There were no sealed modules that had to be replaced whole if they failed. You could fix those trucks in a field with a flashlight and a basic socket set. That simplicity is not an accident. It was a design choice made by engineers who understood that a truck is a working tool, and a working tool that cannot be repaired is not a working tool. It's a liability. When Ford designed the 7.3 Power Stroke in the early 1990s, they were responding to a market that demanded durability above all else. That engine was a heavy, old-fashioned, indirect injection diesel that made nobody any promises about efficiency or emissions. What it did promise was longevity, and it delivered. I've pulled 7.3 engines out of F-250s and F-350s with well over 500,000 miles that required nothing more than routine maintenance. I've seen rod bearings that still had adequate clearance at 400,000 miles. I've seen turbochargers that never got rebuilt because the owner kept the oil changed and never overheated the engine. Now compare that to what happened starting in the late 1990s and accelerating through the 2000s. Manufacturers started building engines with increasing amounts of electronics, plastic components where metal used to be, and emission systems that were designed to meet standards that changed every few years. The result is an engine that is more efficient on paper and significantly less durable in the real world. A 2004 Ford 6-liter Power Stroke is a perfect example. On paper, it was an upgrade from the 7.3. More horsepower, more torque, better fuel economy. In reality, it had a reputation for head gasket failures, injector problems, and turbo issues that cost thousands to repair. I've seen those engines require $5,000 to $8,000 in repairs before they hit 150,000 miles. And the problem is not just the engine. The problem is that when those engines fail, they require dealer-level diagnostic equipment to even identify the problem correctly. This is the core of what I'm trying to get across. The trucks that refuse to die are the ones that have mechanical simplicity on their side. No electronic throttle control, no drive-by-wire systems, no computer-controlled fan clutches, no emission systems that require regeneration cycles or dealer resets. I'm talking about engines like the 1990 7.3 Power Stroke, the Dodge 5.9 12-valve Cummins, and the older Chevrolet and GMC trucks with the 6.2 and 6.5 diesel engines. These are the three platforms that mechanics talk about in reverent tones when the topic comes up. And there's a reason for that. Let's start with the 7.3 Power Stroke. Produced from 1994 to 2003, this engine was Ford's answer to the needs of heavy-duty truck users. It had a mechanical injection pump, robust iron block, and a simplicity that made it forgiving of maintenance intervals that weren't always perfectly observed. The 1994 and 1995 models used the HEUI injection system, which had its own issues. But from 1996 onward, the engine settled into a design that was remarkably durable. The key to keeping a 7.3 Power Stroke alive is straightforward. Change the oil every 5,000 miles or less with 15W40 conventional oil. Replace the fuel filters every 10,000 miles. Do not let it run hot. And if you hear a ticking noise from the top end, address it immediately before it turns into a catastrophic failure. The 7.3 will routinely make 400,000, 500,000, even 600,000 miles with nothing but basic maintenance. The Dodge 5.9 12-valve Cummins is another one of those engines. Produced from 1989 to 1993 in the first-generation configuration, and then updated through the late 1990s and early 2000s, the 5.9 12-valve is famous for its inline six-cylinder design and its mechanical injection pump that you could rebuild in a shop with basic tools. This engine came from the factory with a mechanical Bosch P7100 injection pump that was known for delivering fuel reliably for hundreds of thousands of miles. The 12-valve used a V-type injector, where the later 24-valve models used a more complex system that introduced more failure points. If you're shopping for one of these trucks today, the 1994 to 1998 model years represent the sweet spot. They have the 12-valve engine with the NV4500 manual transmission option and the heavy-duty NV271 transfer case if it's a four-wheel drive. These trucks will go 500,000 miles without a major engine repair if they're maintained even halfway decently. I've seen them sell for $12,000 to $18,000 depending on condition, and that price is justified because those trucks will outlast three modern pickups. The third leg of this conversation is the older Chevrolet and GMC CK series with the 6.2 and 6.5 diesel engines. These are less famous than the Power Stroke or the Cummins, but they have their own loyal following among mechanics who know what they're looking at. The 6.2 was produced from 1982 to 1993, and the 6.5 came after that through the early 2000s. They're not as powerful as the Power Stroke or the Cummins, but they're incredibly durable when maintained properly. The key issue with the 6.2 and 6.5 is the injection pump and the injectors. The CP3 pump that came on the 6.5 is reliable, but the injectors can be problematic if you let fuel quality slip. Keep the fuel filters changed, use a quality diesel additive in the winter, and do not run it on anything other than number 2 diesel or a proper blend, and this engine will go 400,000 miles. Now I want to talk about what farmers do differently for maintenance, because that is the single most important factor in why these trucks outlast everything else. And I'm not talking about farmers who take their trucks to the dealership every 5,000 miles for a $200 service visit. I'm talking about farmers who grew up maintaining equipment with their grandfathers, who understand that an engine is a mechanical system that needs oil and filter changes, and not much else if you do those two things correctly and frequently enough. A farmer will change his truck's oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. He'll do it himself in the barn with a wrench and a drain pan and a funnel. He will buy conventional oil from the same store where he buys tractor hydraulic fluid. He will not use synthetic unless there's a specific reason to. He will check his tire pressure before a long haul. He'll listen to the engine when he starts it in the morning, and if something sounds wrong, he'll figure out what it is before he drives 50 miles down the road. He won't wait for a dashboard light to come on. Dashboard lights are for people who don't know how to listen to their engine. Farmers learned to listen decades before anyone put a check engine light on a dashboard. This is the maintenance culture that built these trucks and kept them running. It's not complicated, it's not expensive, it requires nothing more than basic attention and a willingness to do the work yourself. And the irony is that the people who bought these trucks new in the 1990s and early 2000s paid far less for them than people are paying for comparable new trucks today, and they got far more durability. A 1999 F-250 with the 7.3 Power Stroke cost about $28,000 brand new with a regular cab and a long bed. Adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $52,000 in today's dollars. You cannot buy a new F-250 today for $52,000 that will outlast that 1999 model. That's not an opinion, that's arithmetic. Let me give you some real mileage stories because numbers on a spec sheet don't tell the whole story. I've already told you about Earl's F-250 with 847,000 miles. Let me tell you about the others. A customer brought me a 1995 Chevy CK2500 with the 6.5 turbo diesel last spring. He was a cattle rancher from southern Kentucky, and he had bought that truck new in 1995. At the time he brought it to me, the odometer read 762,000 miles. He used that truck to pull livestock trailers, haul feed, and drive back and forth to auction barns every week. He changed the oil himself every 5,000 miles. He replaced the water pump twice. He rebuilt the automatic transmission at 400,000 miles because it started to slip under load. But the engine never came out. The engine never required a major repair. He asked me what it was worth, and I told him honestly that I would not sell it for less than $14,000 as a used truck, because you cannot buy a new truck that will do what that truck does for anywhere close to that money. I've seen a 1997 Dodge Ram 2500 with the 5.9 12-valve Cummins hit 680,000 miles before the owner retired it. That truck had the manual transmission, which matters, because the automatic transmissions in those trucks were the weak point. The NV4500 behind the 5.9 is one of the most durable transmissions ever put in a pickup truck. I've rebuilt a few of them, and I can tell you they hold up far better than the automatics that came behind them. Here's the short list of trucks I personally will not sell from my shop because I know what they're worth, and I know what they'll do for the right owner. The 1997 to 2003 Ford F-250 with the 7.3 Power Stroke, regular cab, long bed, two-wheel drive, or four-wheel drive, doesn't matter. These trucks are worth $10,000 to $20,000 depending on condition, and I will not let one go for less than book value because it's worth more than that to the right buyer. The 1994 to 1998 Dodge Ram 2500 with the 5.9 12-valve Cummins and the NV4500 manual transmission. Those trucks in good condition are worth $12,000 to $18,000, and they're only going up because there are fewer and fewer of them with low miles and clean bodies. The 1999 to 2002 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 with the 6.0 gas Vortec engine. Don't laugh. The 6.0 Vortec in those trucks is underrated as a durable engine. It doesn't have the fame of the 7.3 Power Stroke, but it will make 400,000 miles if you maintain it, and parts are cheap and everywhere. And the 1992 to 1999 Toyota Tundra with the 4.7 V8 or the 3.4 V6. I know I talk about American trucks, but Toyota builds trucks that belong on this list. The early Tundras were simple, reliable, and they go 400,000 miles with basic maintenance, just like the American diesels. Now let's talk about the economics of old versus new, because this is where a lot of people get confused. They look at the price of a new pickup truck and they think they're getting something better than what their grandfather paid for his truck. Let me break this down with real numbers. A new 2025 F-250 Lariat with the 6.7 Power Stroke diesel starts at about $68,000. That's before any options. Fully loaded, you're looking at $85,000 to $95,000 depending on what you add. The average new pickup truck transaction in America right now is over $60,000. That truck is engineered to last about 200,000 miles if you maintain it perfectly. After that, the emissions systems start to fail. The electronics start to create codes that require dealer-level tools to clear, and the cost of repair often exceeds the value of the truck. That's not a defect, that's a design choice. A 1999 F-250 with the 7.3 Power Stroke costs between $12,000 and $20,000 depending on condition. It will go 500,000 miles with basic maintenance. The parts cost a fraction of what new truck parts cost, and you can fix it yourself in your driveway with hand tools and a YouTube video. The total cost of ownership over the life of that truck is a fraction of the new truck. You will spend less on repairs over 500,000 miles than a new truck owner spends on his monthly payment over 5 years. I have seen this play out hundreds of times, and it never stops being true. If you're buying a truck today and you want something that's going to last, you have two choices. You can buy a new truck and accept that you're buying a depreciating asset that will require expensive maintenance and dealer-level service for as long as you own it. Or you can buy a pre-2005 heavy-duty truck with a diesel or a gas V8 that was built to be maintained by the owner, and you can drive that truck for the next 20 years with basic maintenance and minimal repair costs. The math is not complicated. Now let me give you some practical guidance on how to find these trucks today and what you should expect to pay. These trucks are out there, but they are getting harder to find, and prices are going up as more people learn what I'm telling you right now. Start with Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist in rural areas. The best deals are 2 to 3 hours away from major cities and farming communities. Look for trucks with a working farmer or rancher in the family. Those trucks have been maintained the way I'm describing. Look at the oil change records if the owner has them. Look at the engine bay. If it looks clean and maintained, if the fluids are the right color and the belts don't show dry rot, you're probably looking at a truck that's been cared for. What should you pay? For a 1997 to 2003 Ford F-250 with the 7.3 Power Stroke and under 300,000 miles, expect to pay $12,000 to $18,000 in today's market. For a 1994 to 1998 Dodge Ram 2500 with the 5.9 12-valve Cummins and the manual transmission, $12,000 to $18,000 as well. For an older Chevy or GMC CK with the 6.2 or 6.5 diesel, $8,000 to $14,000 depending on miles and condition. These prices are not negotiable in my opinion because these trucks are worth more than those numbers represent. A truck that will go 500,000 miles is worth every dollar you pay for it and more. If you're looking at a truck with over 400,000 miles, negotiate the price down because the transmission and suspension components are going to need attention soon. But the engine itself on one of these specific platforms is not the concern. The concern is everything around the engine. Transmissions, transfer cases, U-joints, suspension bushings, brake components. These are wear items that will need replacing on any truck with that many miles. Budget $2,000 to $5,000 for a thorough suspension and drivetrain refresh when you buy a high-mileage truck. That's in addition to the purchase price. Do the work before something fails and leaves you on the side of the road. And here's one more thing I want you to understand before I wrap this up. The reason I'm making this video is because I have spent 40 years watching good trucks get replaced by trucks that were designed to fail. Not all at once, not obviously, but in ways that create dependencies on dealer service departments and proprietary parts and expensive diagnostic equipment. The trucks I'm describing here represent a different philosophy. They were built to be maintained by the owner. They were built to last, and they were built to do real work for hundreds of thousands of miles. Earl Hensley is still driving his 1997 F-250. I talked to him last month. That truck now has over 920,000 miles on it. He changed the oil last week. He told me he's thinking about retiring the truck next spring and putting it in his son's name. I told him he should keep it. I told him that truck is a monument to a way of building things that nobody practices anymore. And I told him I hoped he knew how rare that truck is. He said he knows. He said every time he drives it, he thinks about the day he bought it in 1999 for $23,000. He said he spent maybe $8,000 on maintenance over the entire life of that truck. And he said that truck has worked harder than any truck he ever owned and asked for less in return. That's the story. That's why these trucks are unkillable. And that's why mechanics like me refuse to let them go. If you learned something from this video, hit subscribe. If you have a farm truck story, drop it in the comments. And if you want to know which trucks are worth buying and which ones will cost you money, stay tuned to this channel.